pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay, you're good with what you need to do?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming out this evening, holiday season. You all received this week a copy of the minutes. Tammy, thank you for sending those minutes out ahead of time. We appreciate that. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to take a look at them. Any comments on the minutes? Have a motion to approve them?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes. Tammy, why don't we jump right in with you, if that's okay? For
Sure.
Recreation report?
November, continued working on events and programs pretty heartily, and park projects as well, moving along, park and facility projects. We had the second annual Mother-Daughter Princess Tea Party at the Saturday Club. It was a sellout with 110 guests on Sunday the 11th. We had the 6th annual drop-off for Santa's delivery on the 24th. We had a 16% growth in the households this year and a 12% growth in presents that we delivered overall, so it was pretty significant. The event that we actually delivered on the 8th, so last Saturday night.
What's the total number, Tammy, of houses delivered to?
I was going to show it to you later in my
I'm sorry.
presentation, but
That's
it's
fine. We can
five.
save it.
It's in my report. It's five. I'm sorry. It was 481.
Oh my goodness.
Now, the only thing I'll say is with an asterisk, because that night we have a lot of people who run up to the present vehicle and they interject gifts to be delivered. We did try and capture all of those, but I think we had 2 zones where we didn't get the numbers from the leaders on those zones. So we tried to capture those as best as possible. So it could have creeped up more towards 500.
And that might undersell it anyway. I know in my neighborhood there are a number of homes where multiple families went to that home. So if they all stayed in their own home, that 481 would tick higher.
That's right. It's very difficult for Santa that night, which we have one of them sitting in the room here. He can talk about his experience.
It was
I just didn't think
a fantastic experience.
Was that you doing it?
Yeah. I had one of the best times of my life. Honest to God, it was really, really good. Now, when there's people who did come and gave you presents to then give to somebody, you know what I mean? That was a little confusing.
Got a little hairy,
There
definitely.
were a couple times when I said, so-and-so has been such a good boy, and the mother said, yeah, he doesn't live here. Because I had to wrap presents. But we
Probably a very good boy.
I blamed it on my elf. That's right, because I did have an elf that came up with the right ones, yeah.
It's always the staff.
It's always a staff.
Well, that was a Citizens Police Academy member who was
Yeah, and
your
he did a
particular elf,
really
and he
good
hustled.
job.
He
Oh
was
my
sweating
God.
by like halfway through the
After
night
about
there.
the first 20, it was tough. It really was.
It is.
But it
and
was well. It was
After the
really
first
well
20
worth
what?
it. 20
households
deliveries.
and stops.
Each Santa did before. We did what, 82 or 83?
86.
86.
But plus we had those
Plus
additional
the other
ones, so
yeah.
that brought us
And
up
we had a
probably
lot of-
another
we had a
4 or
lot of
5.
those. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
up and down off the engine, along
Yeah.
with the elf, is tiring.
Well, the elf had to get out and run around the truck and open the door for me. For Santa needs an entrance.
Were you hazing him or something?
I thought he did. Yeah, I thought he did it all the time. I didn't realize it was his first one too.
It was, well, he wasn't even a volunteer at a different level last year. This is his
He
very
just moved
first
right
rodeo.
into the elf. That was like,
He originally wasn't assigned for that spot.
You just ride on the back, truck outside. He wouldn't have had to come around and let you out every
well, I
time.
was dressed to do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Should have been in the back. Ho, ho, ho.
This is safer though, because the guy
Yeah.
was driving like, he was driving really somewhat quick.
Well, the big thing about the zone that you were
Yeah, I
in,
was
because I was in
looking out
Chuck's
my
zone as
windows
well,
and
is there's a
going
lot
down
of gaps
maybe a
in
wall.
between travel. So some of the zones, like the Garrett Hill area, is a little more condensed, so you have a shorter distance in between stops,
you
so
could
we
go
had
in
some
the back.
distance in between,
It'd
so
probably be pretty scary to be on the back going that fast.
without a doubt.
This guy. They were from Broomall, they weren't Radnor, so I didn't have much pull even as a Santa.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's
I'm sorry.
okay. That's okay. Yeah, it was quite an amazing year of Santa's, and believe it or not, it's 6th year already. So time goes by when you're having fun, I guess. By way of programs, things were successful going into November. I know I have a list in my report, kind of demonstrates a lot of things that were going on, just even in lieu of a lot of things being relocated with regards to Radnor Activity Center still being under floor replacement. We had one of our first open gym nights. It was a goal to kind of get back to having an open gym night that was free for a large range of ages of members of the community. We had that. It was originally scheduled for the RAC. We ended up moving it over to Radnor Middle School. We only had 10 kids, but we felt that it was a good start. It's definitely something we want to look to get back to doing a little bit more as we turn the corner into the new year. Maybe at least once a month. We have our health director, Marie Carbonara, who's been real interested in helping to lead that with us, so that's great. Obviously, to have staff there that aren't paid or volunteering, playing for time is definitely a great thing. Helps us be successful with a program like that. We also had our New York City trip, which was close to sell out. I think we had 45 folks that went up to New York City on actually December 1st. We're continuing to work on our winter brochure, which will include a lot of spring, but it'll be mostly winter and some pre-spring, and then we'll have our full spring and summer brochure come out a little bit later. So the winter brochure should be ready, we're thinking Monday or Tuesday of next week, so when it's completed, I'll email it to you. It's probably better than wasting all that paper anyways, because it's pretty thick. So we'll send it out electronically, and you can get a chance to take a look at it. Right now, we're kind of in the mix of planning for winter, spring, and summer, believe it or not. On any given day, we have meetings relative to all three seasons, so it's a little up and down for us on the things that we're planning. And like I said, getting ready for summer really has been a big part of some of the things we're doing on the side right now also. The replacement of the activity center floor has completed. We reopened same day as Santa's delivery last Saturday, and ended up getting users back into the facility. Everyone seems real happy and pleased. I'll show you some pictures a little bit later. I had a chance to meet over there to show Chris the facility about an hour ago, I guess, and we're real pleased with how it worked out. Miller Flooring was fantastic to work with, in terms of the project itself, and amazingly, it was done in 8 weeks. Tomorrow we will have a meeting just to kind of close out the project and talk a little bit about the ongoing maintenance of the floor and just some of the cleaning ongoing on a regular basis. The floor does have daily and every other day kind of maintenance behind it that we'll have to keep up with, especially right now because it will be utilized every day. Between Radnor Youth basketball, after school, middle school basketball, and with pickleball happening 3 days a week, there's a lot of things that are going on. So definitely it makes the floor dirty quickly. So we have to keep up with that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did they just refinish it or did they replace it?
Replace the entire floor.
They took all the wood floor out?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really? Wow.
Pried out every single floorboard that was there from 70, 50
The floor
years ago.
was buckling actually from the water it got in August, and it took time to buckle because we were in there, I was in there with you in mid-September, and you see a couple little things, it wasn't too bad, but by early October it had just shot. It was dangerous. Splinters come off the board and stuff.
Yeah, the humidity factor.
Yeah, I
the
figured
water,
that
the
has something to do
moisture
with it.
coming up through just started to cause it
Can I
to
ask
cut.
what that cost to replace the floor again?
It ended up being right around $149, but it was an insurance claim. So the school district holds the insurance on the facility, so it was a claim that was put forth with their leadership, at the school district's leadership through the business department. So initially it was quoted, I believe, a little bit higher because the subfloor was to be replaced, but in fact, once they got in there and they actually brought the floor up, they determined that it was still in good shape and there was no need to replace that portion of it. So it was about $150,000. And it looks pretty amazing. I think folks are happy.
Yeah, I saw pictures. Did you guys circulate some?
I did. I'd
Yeah.
sent some pictures out, and
Yeah,
I'll show you guys some
Yeah,
tonight
that's
too
good.
within the presentation. But we were able to do some new and creative things with the lines and the markings. Pickleball is a little more prominent now in the facility, so the lines are a little more prominent now. And we were able to fit 4 courts, which is great. So it enabled some exciting change, conducive to the usability of the facility. So we're real happy with how it worked out. And then now the facility, like I said, is used on a daily basis, so it's up and running, and we're still wrapping up some of the program relocations from what we had with the school district and some of the programs that had been moved over to the middle school and the elementary school. We also had had roofing work done in the facility as well, so that came to a close about a week ago, where the flashings around the HVAC units were fixed and sort of replaced. There's some areas where like the membrane was exposed and they have to put sort of new material down to close it up. So yeah, I feel confident the asset is protected right now. It doesn't solve the issue we have on the back portion of the roof, which is really covering the second floor. We still have a replacement that has to happen there, which hasn't been budgeted yet, but something I know we're looking at. We also had some drainage corrections done to the west side of the facility, right behind the fire station entrance exit. And there's a drain that's back there that runs underneath the sidewalk that I believe was clogged, so they removed a lot of the sediment and cleaned that out, and I think they installed a new trench in that to bring the water around the facility. And I know last month, Chuck, you had suggested flood-resistant doors and some other things we could maybe do, and we're going to look at that.
We talked about that facility, but I'll wait till we get our report if you want.
That's fine, unless you want to talk about it now, since we're
I
on.
can. I mean, I offered that up to I think it was the facilities meeting because of the fact that it went through an insurance claim, but which kind of was piggybacked on other things that we had to claim because we had all the flooding, And I said, well, do we actually need that door back there? Was one of the questions that I would like to see because of access. Do we need it to be ADA? Because we have hopefully 2 at present that are ADA, and if we don't need it, then we could actually block it off. I don't think it's used that much. There's a great big dumpster in the way of it right now.
That's for the project.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you had access without it, though, you wouldn't have to worry about the flooding coming into it, or you could come up a couple of steps and then come down a couple of steps so that the door itself is another 3 foot high, and then you don't have to worry about it. If it floods and it comes all the way up, and then it would run out into the street and down, and we wouldn't really worry about it. But we were just looking at how to protect our asset without really going into a big expense.
Well, I know we looked
Or a
at
submarine door without a screen door. We talked about that too.
Right.
We didn't want to budget a screen door with it, but we could put a submarine door there. Never put a screen door in a submarine. Okay.
I'll have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. Not worth it. It's an old joke. But that's all I got.
we can certainly keep that dialogue open,
Yeah.
certainly as we continue to look at ways of
Because it's a
protecting
beautiful
the facility.
floor, and we may still get some rain in the area, so.
Well, we're hoping some of the work has corrected the issue back there.
Mhm.
We don't know that it's going to be 100%. And there's also 2 sets of doors. There's also the door set that's in the stairwell, which I know has had water come through it before as well. So you have 2 sets of doors there you would need to correct. I would think the stairwell door, you could probably block those off and that would be sufficient. I'm not quite sure the back door entrance, because we
Yeah, I
do
don't
use it.
know.
We
I
don't
don't
use it
know.
for public access, but we
Right.
do use it when there's projects going on.
Yeah.
That access is kind of key at the back of the facility,
Mhm.
because you can't really come in off the field.
Right.
It's a little more difficult on the
Yeah,
opposite side.
Okay.
So, I know we'll talk about Emlett's now, of course, in a little bit too. That's on as an, excuse me, an agenda item. Other projects, just like O'Connor, Warren, Philippone's, continuing to move along to determine what type of permitting we need through the process of getting those projects started, and then ultimately the bid specifications being finalized. The Radnor Trail bathroom, I know we're continuing to do feasibility on that. We've looked at a few different options. That's one I want to try to get back before you guys, or get before you guys in the early part of the year. I know we looked at like sewer options in terms of bathrooms, and kind of determined that that's not feasible as part of the trail bathroom located right at the Brookside entrance, just given the distance that we'd have to run for sewer connectivity. In one direction's uphill and in another direction's downhill, but very far, so it would actually not be feasible to that project. We also looked at a composting bathroom that would be similar to Ditmar, in that it wouldn't be like a waterless bathroom where it would, operate like a portable toilet where someone, you'd have to have a company come in and take out everything on a weekly basis or what have you. But the composting works a little bit differently. kind of determined that's not feasible too, through a company we were evaluating it with, which was actually the original company that did Ditmar's system, the BioSun system. Just given the usage is so high there. And you also have a small footprint, so it's not like you have a larger footprint like you have at Ditmar. So I believe that one's going to be off the table, and we may end up going with one that kind of is a waterless vault system, similar to how a porta potty would act but not look. You'd have the aesthetic of a very nice aesthetic bathroom, conducive to kind of the trail and the environment and the site, but it would have to have the service to be able to keep it clean. So it looks kind of like that's the process we're going to settle into. So I'm hoping at the turn of the new year we can kind of make that decision, bring the bathroom before you guys take a look at it, and then ultimately go for purchase to get that one.
And that's budgeted for?
It is. That would have been a project that was part of the bond, the borrowing back in 2015, as is Bo Connor, Moore, and Philippine too. And then Fenimore again, I know I feel like a broken record every month saying, it's coming, it's coming. It's coming. I know Bob and I are slated to meet with Gilmore and Associates, who's our consultant, next week to get an update, take a look, hopefully at an updated plan, and get that back before you guys, hopefully within the first quarter of the new year. That'll be a big one, since it'll be comprehensive improvements, similar but different to what we did at Clemmer-Crumb. I know Parks had given me a report just to let me know what they've been doing and some of the work that they've been working on. I know they've been active with leaf removal throughout the township, and helping those crews and moving along to get leaves out of the parks, blowing leaves out of the park, and working out there with the highway department with the collection. They also noted they keep maintaining the trash on obviously a whatever their schedule is, basis that they work on in terms of trash in all of the parks. Also, just to kind of keep you guys informed, I know we're searching for a new park supervisor at this point. Our one that we just hired back in September, I know he was let go, so we'll be fulfilling that role. I know that job is currently in circulation to fill what would have been, as you guys know, Mark's old position. So that's an update from them. Any questions?
Bob, quick question for you, just a leaf question, it's unrelated, but you guys come around once, you come around a second time, it's awesome. Nothing makes me madder than they come around a second time, and the next day somebody puts all their leaves out in the street again.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? We finally got the streets clean.
They blowing your lawn.
How do you guys handle, let's not go there, but how do you guys handle that situation? Because I'm sure it happens.
There's a built-in, we don't tell everyone, but now we will, we go 3 times.
Gotcha.
And then if it's past that, we will go. We don't broadcast that because if not, people will continue to keep
But
going.
you have to go 4 times.
Right.
But we go the first 2, and then we know that people do that. Or leaves, some of the trees
I
will
was
hold
gonna say,
on to
depends
their
on what
leaves
kind of
longer.
trees they have. If it's an oak or a.
Oak trees are still out there, yeah.
They're
Beech.
still-
Yeah.
But we will go, and then we will continue to stay on it then throughout the winter time.
So I shouldn't take my snow shovel and go at night and shovel it back on the guy's lawn?
You could if you like. But I know that there are some businesses that try to do that, and we place the leaves back on their property. So, because it's not for businesses.
Really?
Some will put mountains out there, we just take our loader and put it back up. in the
Right
parking
back on.
lot.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Okay, great. Thank you, Tammy. Other reports, boards, Claire is doing a college visit with her son, so she's not here for Shade Tree. School board, Julia, Chuck, anything from your side?
Well, we did talk about the Emlyn Tunnel. One of our school board members wanted to take a closer look at the contract, or the lease, I think it was.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, that was it, and they were going to move it, because that's basically what we said. You all the same thing?
No other issues.
Right, there were no other issues. She just wanted a little more time. New board member, and she's a lawyer. Not that I have anything against lawyers, but she just wanted to see what it actually was. Because they had asked, and we said that the township wasn't urgent that we had to pass it without giving her the opportunity to look at it. So we just pushed it off for a month. So we should be approving it at next business meeting.
Great.
Unless you guys got,
Yeah,
I also got other feedback
Yeah,
from
there's
other
a-
commissioners, and it's it's very confusing, but that's not what happened at the meeting, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that?
I'm curious to hear what you heard.
So there was an addendum to the lease that was drafted and shared
By
with
our,
us.
by
By Todd.
person, right?
So Todd provided us with it subsequent to the meeting that we had when I was there
Todd
on
is
the
the
20th.
solicitor for the school board.
No,
Todd
it's like
is
a human resource slash acting.
business department.
Business, actually human resource, but he's
Alright.
also
Okay.
acting as our facilities person.
So he-
Administrator.
Yeah, so I assume that it was worked up by your attorney.
It was.
Your counsel.
It was, that's what I was told.
And then reviewed, I guess, by your board.
No.
Well, that's what, it wasn't
No.
reviewed by the board because we didn't get it in time
Okay.
to review it. I think that's what the issue was.
So we received a copy of it, and I think in our review, I think there were some concerns we had in some of the language. I think
Okay.
one of the most notable pieces was there was item 4 that noted authorization to, that the board would approve the plans, approve the construction plans. Just didn't seem fitting for the lease addendum. Not only that, but like if we go and we make the purchase and our board authorizes that,
Mhm.
which, we're hoping to do as our next step. If we go and we purchase it, and, we obviously engage a contractor to purchase,
Right.
then if you disapprove the construction plans, then we're kind of left with the building.
It's a little odd, yeah, so, and I don't really want to get in the middle of this,
Yeah.
but so were you able to go back and say?
I think
could
we
you
were gonna
please remove
provide,
that?
a markup. I know
Okay,
they're waiting
okay.
for us, the ball is in our court right now to
Okay.
provide a markup to the lease addendum.
So I would try to get that in,
Mhm.
because, to be quite honest with you, I didn't look at it. I just figured we should just go through and do it. I'm more or less, sometimes I get a little frustrated with the lack of just doing things around the area. And I didn't realize that was put in there. And,
There was a lot of great language to it, it made sense in
Right, right,
terms
right.
of, the coverage, the liability,
Mhm.
indemnification. I know there was some of the things that the board had voiced concerns on, making sure the township absorbed a lot of those, and then also making sure that it was added to
right,
the
right.
existing lease.
So I'm trying to be a
as
little
an
more
addendum.
active as the liaison between the two, between you guys, the park board, and the school.
What also is interesting is that when you read the lease is only for the parking lot. It spells about the parks, but it's really the parking lot.
The original.
So,
lease.
the original one. So to me is, I'm sure you'd be more than happy to take over the field maintenance and repair the fences and backstops and playground and all that other stuff. Because it's not where I think then too is we agreed that if we got into that, then also we're gonna go into an area I don't think we all wanna go into.
Right, I think what we're trying to do is just put a conversation into a facility that we use.
Right.
So hopefully we can get that
Send
accomplished.
that Addendum.
Well, I mean, I
Yeah.
think
We'll
we
send it
can,
to
but
you.
our
Really,
hope is
like
to send it
six
back
right
to the
now.
school too, and
Oh, but I think we should
Change
see
it.
that as well.
Okay.
We've seen the original lease agreement, if we're gonna be addendum to it, if we're gonna make, we make recommendations to the board of commissioners, we gotta understand what we're recommending, et cetera, so if you could send that around, Tammy,
Will do.
please.
Yeah, with
Chuck.
with like the markup, and then.
Well,
that way we
send
could-
what they say, yeah,
I mean,
whatever
what-
format, if you have the markup, that's fine too.
Yeah.
At least we can have a chance to take a look at it since, if need be, communicate with Chuck and Julie and get their support. Okay.
Yeah, so that we can then come into that meeting and we'll be prepared to give a position that we'll move it forward.
I agree with you, we make it much harder than what it should be.
Well,
That's
especially
just my
since we're
opinion.
co-located. So it's not like a different Easton or Marple Newtown.
Right.
This is all Radnor residents, same taxpayer.
Co-loco?
Hmm?
Co-loco?
Co-located.
Oh, you thought it was loco. Okay. But anyway,
that's-
yes, I do agree with you. I think sometimes we make it too complicated just to make the business.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Nothing else on the school board end? John?
Well,
Commissioners?
the big thing was the budget. So we passed the budget with a 6% tax increase, which still has us as one of the lowest of the surrounding. None of you have looked at it yet. There's an appendix that Bill puts together in the back of the book that compares us to the surrounding communities. takes into account things like the stormwater fee and trash pickup and those kind of things. We had to increase sewer rents again. That's because we had major problems with the sewer system. We did not fund a bunch of capital projects. So, whose idea was the extra meetings? Or is that the one you've been pushing for 10 years?
Yeah. Yes.
And convinced Lisa to go along, so we have 10 extra meetings next year that will be about nothing but capital projects, capital funding, and those kind of things. So I wasn't able to put anything in for the parks, anything additional that I'd hoped to do. And we didn't fund the tree issues that we need to. We only gave the fire company $100,000 additional. They asked for $250,000. I don't know if you all saw, but there was a really good series of articles in the Enquirer about the crisis in Pennsylvania with volunteer fire companies.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't know. I think that's enough. So, do you have any questions on that?
Any questions for John?
Oh, the Willis Park Preserve group presented to and had an open house for the commissioners to come over and see their first, I'm calling it a draft report because I'm not happy with some of the things in it. But it's a very nice, very professionally done presentation, and it's like everything to the max. So this is not skimping at all. It's a new tile roof, so those kind of things, elevator. They've dropped the idea of the pond view room and instead have a raised veranda, I'll call it, at the one end of the building. But the thing that struck me was how professionally done it was.
What weren't you happy with?
The price.
Was that a surprise, really?
Yeah, because we had been telling them all along. And I've had a good friend who is a builder and does restoration work. Talk to him, and I'm giving him a copy of it to ask him to. His off the top quick look was half the price they had quoted. Now, if they can raise that kind of money, God, great. But I don't think they can, because I don't think people are going to invest that kind of money.
Can you tell us what kind of money we're talking about?
Rather than not, because it's getting around the community and everybody's getting all spun up already. When it's not the final price at all, it's an estimate. And they've already, last I heard from Tish, they've already cut it significantly from what they presented to us. So.
Now, what kind of engineering do they do? It used to be called when a project would come in and then there was just a specific engineer you would hand it to look at that.
Well, they had architects, they had engineers, they had people who, builders. So they had a gamut of folks. But,
I mean, we used to submit it to somebody. It's some type of.
well, there's a group that does
It's an
value
economic.
engineering.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I mean, we did that before on other projects.
Right, and they go back and say, maybe you don't want to put tile roof. Maybe you want to back off of that and put something tile-like or tile-light or yeah.
Probably with the library too.
Oh,
to
yeah.
some degree.
Yeah. Value engineering.
Value engineering is one of the things they call it. In the old days, we just called it project review.
Okay.
Yeah, third-party project review.
Yeah.
John, you know my feelings on the Willows project. And if you don't want to share with us, that's fine, how much this project proposal came in at. But my question is, we've given them or allocated $1.8 million, I believe,
Yeah,
of
that's
township
it.
money.
That's all we're giving them.
Are they spending that money now?
Well, that 100,000 was the first.
Yes.
We limited it to that.
Right.
They now have to raise more.
Before they can spend the money
Right.
that township.
Right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and we've made it very clear that they were lucky to see $1.8 million. Yeah.
I
guess, semi-related, turns to Tammy, with the budget and hearing what Commissioner Nagel said about representations on parks. Have we figured out what the impact might be on those charts and capital projects and planning we've looked at? In other words, are we going to be able to fund anything other than what's already designated
Yeah,
through the bond?
nothing has been
Okay.
funded for 19. Of course, we have the funding left over from the bond, or from the bond, I should say.
Correct.
There's a lot to keep us busy in the
Right.
new year, I will say that, with Fenimore and Knife and Valley and O'Connor Philippone.
Trails.
There's good stuff there, so there's a lot that will be happening, hopefully, soon.
Thank you, John. Any other boards or reports that anybody is aware of and wants to make? Okay.
I just have one other thing. We did have the person from the trail come to our facilities meeting and give a presentation about the trail at the high school. Which went pretty well, depending upon which there's still some confusion over different things, and we still talked about why it's going on our property up King of Prussia Road. I believe there are a number of advantages for us to put the trail up there. The sidewalk up there is in disrepair to start with, and that would be replaced. Trees look like they need to come down, and they'd be taken out, and they would be replaced. So the board still hasn't given a final approval because we don't know when to approve yet, but it's moving forward.
I'm going to switch it up a little bit here and do public participation. Does anybody want to make a public participation? Old
Brer
business.
Rabbit hiding in my briar patch.
I'm sorry?
Said I'm just like Brer Rabbit hiding in my briar patch.
Okay. Good. Old business. Is there anything else, Tammy, we need to discuss about Emlenton L? We're really just waiting to finalize things with the school district, and then we can go through the Board of Commissioners to get final approval to put out the bid package.
Well, it would be to purchase.
Purchase.
So once we purchase, then we'll work through that process and then
Okay.
begin to get back to developing the plan.
Once we purchase what?
Purchase the comfort station.
Wow.
Purchase so they have to authorize the actual purchase, given the cost, and then once we get through the process of, final spec on the building, then we'll work with the engineers, the township engineers, to finalize the package that will go out for construction, basically.
Okay. Anybody have questions about Tunnel? Okay. Next thing we have on here is review of the township capital budget projects, but given the budget situation, I don't know if there's a whole lot to talk about. We did last month talk a little bit about what's still left in the bonds, and I think you'll have a copy of the 5-year plan in there as well. And hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at their individual parks that they're representing, and just kind of tune things up. Does anybody have anything specific they want to talk about with regard to capital budget and a specific park?
Well, I have Veterans Park, and we have the fountain that's in there, and I'm not sure what we want to do with that. It used to work. I don't know whether we want to pursue that, or whether we want to not go with that.
Was that in the plan for the upgrade?
It's not.
Because we have a whole new plan for Veterans Park.
Okay, well,
That, working with the,
I do recall that.
yeah.
I just wondered, since you asked that, I actually do go now and walk through the park and look at different things. And that everything actually looked very nice. The bushes were all trimmed back nicely. You see people using it. Actually, I went through there today, and but that's the only piece.
I have a question. When we have a group like a Boy Scout working for Eagle Scout, and coming up with a project that helps our parks. What's the process? Who do they come to for permission to do that? And us guys, okay. Do we invite that kind of thing, or do we just sit back passively? And the reason I'm asking is because a couple of years ago, and I forget whose troop it was, a Boy Scout group built that wooden boardwalk, if you will, at Skunk Hollow where it's very wet. This year I did a couple of trail walks back there for Mainline School Night in the Conservancy. I know this was a crazy year, but it is so wet back there that what was adequate, however long ago that was, maybe 3 years ago, maybe 4 at this point, we need to double that in terms of length. And I think it would be, it was a good Boy Scout project the last time, hopefully it would be an equally good project this time, but it is practically, I don't know if you've been back there, it's practically impassable unless you're wearing, hip boots or something. So it's difficult for people who are using it for recreation, but it's got to be doing a terrible job on the trees as well back there. So I don't think it's something that we need to spend money on necessarily, but if, I assume the Boy Scouts fund their own projects, they use their own money and stuff.
That's actually a
I
significant
think
portion.
we maybe want to, promote that.
Mary, this is going to be the second wettest year on record
Yeah,
for the
believe
Philadelphia
it.
area.
Believe it. But having been back there, going back there for 20, 25 years since we first blazed the trail, I've never seen anything like this. This is incredible. So every year it gets worse.
Could I go back on one thing? Chuck, you were talking about the TAP trail in the presentation.
Right.
The TAP trail is funded. We've not been very successful with the trail extension. We only have, what, $50,000 so far? $150,000 grant. And the Ardrossan trails, at this point, the only funding is the bond funding. I'm hoping to pull together a meeting in January, February, where we try to bring back, I don't remember, we had a really large group of trail supporters in the beginning when we started the project. Bring them back together, and also the 3 firms that are doing the work. We found out last week we made a connection between the firms doing the TAP trail and the trail extension, and lo and behold, there were some synergies that hadn't been identified. So we hope to take advantage of that. And there's some other ideas we're exploring of how we can possibly do the trail extension piecemeal, instead of, like, at this point, digging out to do the culvert, go up above and down, and then stage it, which also is better for going after grants. Instead of going for $500,000, you can go for $100,000 this year, 2 years go for $100,000. So stay tuned.
I had an Eagle Scout inquiry today, just so you know.
Oh, I was like,
They usually all come to
looking
me.
at me like that?
I haven't, they're pretty frequent.
They had a specific idea in mind,
They
or
did not.
they were looking for ideas?
They did not. They were looking
So-
for ideas.
Well, didn't we used to have a project list years ago?
I'm not aware of one. There may have one before me,
Yeah.
in this role anyways, but I know that we just completed a project at Friends of Radnor Trails Park where a bike repair station was installed. Clark Pyatt is
I
something.
mean, they can be
that-
such, a help on part. That's one thing where they can really save us some money. Is by
We had all the
doing these
medians
projects.
painted along the trail. Leo Lawan just
Yeah,
completed
the
that one. I
steps
know we
in
helped
Ithan
him
Valley.
subsidize the costs of that project.
That staircase in Ithan Valley is wonderful.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we just have to be mindful is ongoing maintenance. I think that's really important.
Well, yeah, you don't want to create something that works.
Right, but if it's something that's repairing something that's existing or, get
Well,
the painting
and
work
that
and things
boardwalk
like
project
that.
is a pretty straightforward thing. That's an easy thing.
Well, it was
Corduroy
built
Road.
originally by a scout, I believe, so.
Yeah,
that
I
was a
was there the
project.
day they put it in. It was
Right.
crazy. Right.
Thank you. Last item under old business is park assignments for our members here. Does anybody not happy with their park assignments or want something different? You don't have to necessarily bring it up right here, but always feel free to call or email me, and we can make a change, etc. I will ask everybody, I know I'm a broken record here, and truth be told, I haven't been out a whole lot in the last 3 or 4 weeks, just personal things going on, but, you know, even during the winter time, if you just keep an eye on your parks, if you've got a sign, it's really, it's important because, you know, if we see something, we can bring it to the attention of Tammy or Bob and get it taken care of before it becomes a big problem, a small problem. Winters is a lot of times harsh on the parks, depending on what kind of winter we get, et cetera. You know, if you can, just try and be diligent when you have an afternoon, an hour on Saturday or Sunday, and try and just dive all your parks when you can. That'd be great.
Chris, I just have one more, and old business, I guess it was, Mr. Childs, at our last meeting, brought forward the idea of looking at maybe a master plan for Odorosio Park, and I just wanted to breathe a little more life into that. I don't know how that's done, or whether that's how the finances would be done for that, to looking at whether we can provide opportunities for the community. He had some suggestions, and he felt that the park was somewhat used differently in the front and the back, and maybe moving his suggestion was moving the basketball courts back to where they were, so that they could be used and things like that. So I think that might be something to keep on the back burner. Or I don't know how that works. What point do you look at?
I mean, I think, I agree. It would be great to have that, but I think it's important, and we saw it up at Clement Crone, the community needs to kind of get behind a project like that. I mean, you hear all the projects we have going on here. Some are funded already by the bond that was passed.
Right.
Funded 2 or 3 years ago. We've got projects going on. Obviously, Tammy and her staff are busy with those existing projects, et cetera. That doesn't mean you can't start looking ahead to the next project.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
But to do that, you really need the community members to kind of kickstart that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And to get a group of a dozen community members over there, start talking about it, start communicating, things like that.
So we can give some guidance to Mr. Howard.
Exactly.
Childs, rather.
Mr. Childs, yes.
Sorry, Howard Childs.
Howard, yeah.
And tell him to talk to his commissioner.
The suggestion would be is as the Board of Commissioners will discuss park facilities, that will be the conversation because it'll have to be budgeted.
Okay, so
Put that plan together.
he could contact the commissioner without.
His commissioner, get his commissioner involved, hopefully get some community members involved. And I think that's how things are going to get done.
Okay.
Because of all the needs we have between trees and sewers and parks and trails, and I mean, we've got a lot of things going on in this township, and you know, the challenge is always the funding on all that stuff.
Right.
But I mean, the Clement Crone project, there's a lot of talk about that for 5, 6 years, probably longer, that I can remember anyways, before things got going there. So you need to get some momentum from that standpoint. I think I encouraged him about that when we had our meeting before.
I just didn't know what we had done with that, so I just wanted to kind of.
I'm not sure if anything else has happened on that.
Okay. I'll reach out to him.
Yeah, reach out to him, and if we can help him with that in any way,
yeah,
I'm sure we're certainly
I'm
happy to do that. But I think that's the best way to get something moving along in this township at this point in time with everything else we have and with the budget limitation we have.
Did they, like Clement Crone, for instance, did they form a community?
Well, part of the project scope, when we awarded, was to have public meetings and involve the public.
Well, I mean, to get it started, did they have?
Well, it actually, I thought it started with just the fence and the parking lot and the bathrooms, and grew from there.
But remember, Chuck, Garrett Hill was really organized before that.
That's what I kind of meant, yeah.
When we went through the overlay, which was caused by a potential crisis.
Right. So you had
the community had come together.
You already had like a network already.
So the park was sort of the tail end of.
Okay. I would pass that on, and maybe that's what he needs to do, to get some more civic activity up there,
Right.
and then turn that into action.
Okay. And the commissioner can help.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure who the commissioner is. over there.
Abel.
Jake Abel.
Yeah.
Jake
So,
Abel.
Yeah. No, I think
Oh,
that's
speaking
great.
of parks in the 6th Ward, we approved the contract for Melior to do a design in the West Wing Preserve, and to look at that and the surrounding watershed. Because as you know, there's, down that end is wet. It's a different kind of wet than North Lane, but it's wet.
I think that's Claire's, but I'll take a look.
Well, that's the
Sweet
project.
reserve, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'll check
And
it out.
that's,
I don't know that I have it.
It would be near.
Okay. Thanks for the heads up on that, John. I think that's Claire's work, so I'll
I don't.
mention it to her.
I have a special folder for that.
Okay, new business. Tammy, you have a presentation for us for
I
2019?
do. Before I go through that, because it's a little lengthy, although I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible, did you want to talk
Yes.
about?
Liberty Lane, Friends of Radnor Trail Park, on the Liberty Lane side. We removed the fence that was there. It was basically being held up by rope. So we removed the fence. It wasn't in the best of condition either, so that was removed. There were also hazardous trees determined along that area too by our arborist. Those were removed as well. What we're looking at right now is to go back with either of the three type of samples we have in front of you, which is like a stockade, a space stockade, and a board-on-board, or per se shadow box. So I thought if you had any ideas or suggestions on which one to go with, my personal preference, I think the shadow box looks the best, which is the one right in the middle. It's good both sides. The one that was up there before was stockade, which again can hold snow. It's got wind load this way. The wind's allowed to be able to pass through these. It'll be pressure treated. And then also the trees that were moved, we will replant trees back in that area again as well. And that would be something that as we're ready to plant, we could bring back to you if you wanted tree selection. I know that we've got a number of trees that John Hosbeck has identified. We can show you those. I know the Buckeye tree seems to be the most popular in the neighborhood, but
Buckeye tree?
yeah.
Popular?
Oh, wait,
No,
wait, wait.
no,
Anybody else do?
no, there are other trees that John has identified.
I think a Buckeye
There's
tree would
there's
do
a
very well.
different
Female
form,
the front
ginkgo.
odor is, yeah.
but there's a number of trees though that
Buckeye tree only lasts about 6 years, right before
Yeah.
it
usually it's
moves
like
on to the next.
That's right.
Oh, sorry.
It's headed
It
to the
depends
street.
on who's making that decision.
Yeah.
If it was the right decision based on facts.
I'm sure the Buckeye tree is good for both genders is the problem I worry about a little bit.
Touch and help.
Is it good for both states, though?
You teed it up for him.
But there is a very nice, large, beautiful Buckeye tree down in Ithan Valley Park.
You
As
betcha.
you go on the
There is.
driveway there. There
Yes.
is.
It's
Yeah.
labeled as
Really,
well.
so all those who say they can't grow in this area, they
Oh, no,
can
they
adapt
grow
to
in this area.
everything.
That
Yes,
is
they
shade.
adapt and they're tough as can be.
Remember, Penn State Extension tells it got their lives too.
I like a different kind of Buckeye. I think that's actually a
But,
yellow Buckeye.
no, there are a number of
Great
trees though that could work very well. There's also an area that is wet within the Friends of Radnor Trail Park near that fence. That also we do some grading there because our understanding is that's a good pool for mosquitoes. And it's constantly wet, so that'll be one that will be also grading. So it should be a huge impact to that area. So I don't know if there's any input on which fence sample will look best. They're all going to be the same price. That's the thing that's good about it. It's just what is your visual look at? Because we will also
Well,
then
you're
engage the homeowners then too. And
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say.
the relay.
Yep.
That's probably the most important info, but I like the middle one for the reasons you said.
That's the one, so do I.
No worries, please.
Yeah, I mean, homeowners obviously are important and what their opinion is, but
Exactly.
I like the shadow.
And-
Are they going to be taller than that, though, Bob?
Oh, well, for the dogs that we have, that'll be the
Budget
first
issue.
ones.
They gotta be
Get a
small.
budget this year.
Coral is the color for
If you
2019.
plant
them.
It will be,
If you plan.
it will be a 6-foot fence, a 6-foot fence, and
What are
whatever
the-
the order that, so.
I just assumed Tammy's always nice to give us extra t-shirts and candy canes and stuff. I thought we were taking a piece of fence home.
You could.
You know?
We can give you,
This
we
functional
can give you a
fence.
sample of the old one that came down, which, but it, again, it's the full impact, and Commissioner Abel will take this to Liberty Lane residents, that those pods that sit there, the condos, townhomes, and get their feedback too as well. But
Yeah. Yeah. I would say whatever the homeowners are like is okay by me.
Yeah.
And again, it's replanting of the trees too as well.
Thank you.
if at some point in time you want to see John Hosbeck talk to you about trees, parks, and that, John works very closely with Tammy on this, and be more than happy to come in and he can talk to you about the trees and conditions, and even trying to replant a lot of it back into the parks. And there's some trees that were very fast, rapid growing trees, and some we can let go in some of the wet areas, but I think John would be good to.
He would be. I think, you know, with some of the projects that are coming up at Fenimore and even Beau Connor Philippone, there's definitely some tree removal that, you know, he is advising. So I think that probably would be good. Maybe we could even plan that for January to kind of step through some of that.
Maybe even too is John did do an inventory of every single tree at Fenimore Woods Park, so there is an inventory of every single tree, which I think is very helpful to have.
Yeah, I think that'd be great to have
Wow.
them come in for one of our meetings.
I would
and
love
Yeah.
that.
have an item there for, you
Yeah.
know, obviously there's a lot that he's got going on.
Well, I
But
think if we
pick a
keep
certain
it
thing
tailored
and-
towards the projects coming
the projects
up,
coming
that
up,
we
I
know
think,
are
yeah.
projects that are funded, you know,
Right.
that are happening, unless there are any
Yeah.
ancillary projects that are happening that might be relative to this board. Maybe in January, we can try and set that
You
up.
just have to remember to take antidepressants before.
Yes.
Why,
Because
are
it's
they all
sad.
ashes and?
No, the state of the trees.
State
is
is
Yeah.
just terrible.
I mean, I know Philippone
Any
alone,
other than
tree
ashes,
removal
any
there,
particular
Beau Connor
trees, or just all of them?
advising them.
A lot of them have aged out, if you will.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
well.
And then remember, everybody wanted to plant Bradford pears a couple of years ago.
Right.
Yeah, I know.
What a mistake that was.
Plus, you've got to maintain them.
Yeah.
You got to maintain them. We have not maintained trees, and I think John will tell you, 25 years we haven't done it, so you got to try to
Mary,
catch up 25
you
years.
should look at the
of
one
maintenance.
for Willows
It's-
Park.
It's not good.
Very sad.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Speaking of trees, could I interject a question? Macron, they just took down 3 big trees at the back. Is there gonna, and it looked like some of it was water damage, because I saw them from afar, but the root flare was a lot. Is there gonna be replanting of appropriate trees in that area?
Yes, and John's got some that like wet feet, so those are the type of the appropriate plantings, because John talked, last night we had a meeting, and John talked about putting the right trees in the right areas, because again, roots breaking up sidewalks, but then even in the parks, where do you want the root system to go? So
And
it's
are the
planted there.
ponds, current ponds at Macron ever gonna become rain gardens?
Well, they're actually nice ponds you can fish in, but we are in litigation against the contractors for that project, so
All right.
we have not paid final bill. And then also there's, I think, more litigation we will be taking too as well.
I know I've made the point to you, Bob, and I don't mean to interrupt. When we built the rain garden that the contractor destroyed with the ice, we had the township did the construction. They were one of our partners. It was a REN grant. We dug down 10 feet and then filled it back up with appropriate soil mix.
That's
So
what-
I suspect that those ponds, supposed to be gardens, they didn't do enough digging.
Actually,
They went
I
back
think what we
twice.
found is by having our inspection company, you're not supposed to drive heavy equipment over after you dig that out
Oh,
and you put
yeah.
the appropriate soils. They drove over and compacted the soil, which now creates a big part of the issue. So that's some of the litigation that we have that we're looking at, because we've got photographic evidence that they.
Well, I
drove
didn't mean to
equipment.
interrupt, but I have people who live adjoining Macron look at these rain gardens, comb ponds, and worry about them.
No, and Tammy will keep you updated, because we are in litigation against the contractors there, as well as another project that sits off of West Lane that's also in litigation too as well. A rather big building there, so just because we don't accept the standards that, and there's still a punch list at Glen Macron that has not been completed.
Yeah, the project has not been closed out either.
And we have not released any monies onto the balance of that.
Hopefully no one's ice skating on them this winter.
But I know a big improvement was made, and I know Tammy had fences put up around the base of the back of the pond, so when the kids were playing basketball, they weren't having to wade in. So actually fences were put up on both ends to control the balls, and that's made a huge difference. And actually had good feedback from residents saying thanks for building those up. So
Yeah, they look real nice too.
good
Very
credit to
aesthetic.
Tammy to put that in. So all right.
Hasta la vista.
See you, Bob.
Thanks,
Sleep in
Bob.
tomorrow.
So I wanted to take an opportunity at our last meeting, just at the end of the year, just to kind of do a little bit of a recap on some of the things that have happened throughout the year. One of the benefits of being in recreation is we get lots of great pictures, and we've had a lot of great projects taking place. So just want to take a chance to kind of show those off a little bit. Obviously, the things that we do wouldn't be possible without the leadership of the Board of Commissioners and your support in all that you do. It takes a lot of folks for us to be successful at delivering the quality of life things that we have, that we provide within this community, something that we definitely we appreciate. It's definitely a privilege for us. Bob reminded me that the Emlyn Tennell statue is actually supposed to be in this picture right now, so we took that before it. So I guess if you go out and look there now, it looks much different.
Right.
So I wanted to also just provide some of the new folks on the board just an opportunity to kind of see like what breaks down the time of what we do in terms of our service delivery. There's 7 key areas that make up sort of the high level areas of what we do on an annual basis. Obviously programming, the community events are huge to that. And then the scheduling, the operations of the facilities, and of course the project development, which is what we're behind. It's a lot of information, but some of the highlights just in terms of programming, we're offering about 150 programs a year when you tally up everything that's going on. About 3,000 people estimated, give or take part in recreational programs. It's definitely been one of our staple program areas of delivery, service areas of delivery. We're always trying to take advantage of all of our park and facility locations. That's something that we're really mindful of when we start to think about programs and think of activities that we want to do that are new or even recurring. Another key thing to kind of point out is, especially in the more recent years, safety, communications, molestation, abuse, training, those are all very important areas for us that we have tried to elevate. The state has something called the Child Protective Service laws that basically dictate the type of background checks that are supposed to be done and how often. The great news about those is we require them every year, whereas I think on the state's end it's 60 months for I think some of the levels, and then maybe even in 3 months. I'm sorry, 60 months, and then I think in some of them it's a little bit shorter depending on if they're volunteers or employees in terms of how they're working for us. So it's really a key area that we try and focus on. We have videos related to some of the training with regards to abuse and molestation awareness. It's something we really have been keen about, especially with our contracted vendors, because they're not the direct staff that we hire. So we try to make sure when they're deployed that they are trained in those areas, they're aware in those areas, and that their organization, of course, is behind a lot of the leadership that we try to bring out there to the community in those areas. Safety communication has been a big one for us this year. We have a lot of programs that take place at the Willows. And as we know, safety communications at the Willows aren't easy. You can't rely on cell phone communications in that area. So we actually have gotten our Survivor Nature Camp and a lot of our other camps that take place in that area, two-way radios that are reliable, that will work in those areas. So we've seen significant improvements there. And then they're able to communicate when they're in different areas, when folks are docked at the main portion of the Willows and then off in some of the hiking trails and areas. So that's been really important for us. Obviously, things like continued quality control. We do evaluations. Every program you participate in, you should receive an evaluation of some sort to tell us how we're doing or what your experience was like. So Radnor Day Camp, obviously the staple. It's been around for over 75 years. The great thing about this program is a lot of our other township departments participate to make it great. The fire company comes, the police department comes, our Citizens Police Academy has taken part. They come and they visit. Our health department actually just recently got involved with the program as well, and they come out. And they've had some discussions about health and wellness related activities and items, especially with our older ages at camp. In our upper levels of camp, our leadership, we have folks that have come back 5, 10, 15 years in terms of their tenure. So we definitely have a solid foundation in terms of the leadership, and something, you know, we obviously like to brag and boast about. Specialty camps over the summer, high level focus. Our Harry Potter has been very popular over the years. Theater Horizons, theater camps. We have basketball camps that are delivered, sports programming at the gymnasium. So a lot of things that we focus on, and just trying to complement what's already happening out there. Of course, in the mainline area, there's a lot of programs, there's a lot of camps that's available. So we're not trying to compete, we try to find our niche, of course. Radnor Champions program, which is our special needs programming that we deliver in cooperation with the Radnor Committee for Special Education. Something that's continued to be very popular for us. That group had come and spoken to our board, I think 2 years ago now, and we've continued to work together strongly. As a matter of fact, headed into the new year, we're trying to do more things beyond sports, try to do some more creative activities, maybe some trips, things like that, to keep those programs going and provide obviously some programming, different programming for those individuals. Pickleball, can't say enough about pickleball. This was actually, these pictures are from Monday, so the gym opened on Saturday. On Monday, I stopped in just to kind of take a look, you know, okay, what did the facility look like after the busy weekend, and I didn't realize I was going to walk into a ton of pickleball players aggressively playing their doubles pickleball. So as you can see on the new gym floor, pickleball it's continuing, it's strong. As a matter of fact, when we relined the floor for pickleball, we now, as I mentioned before, we're able to allocate 4 courts. They're in a distinct white color, since it really is one of the most predominant sports now being played in the facility.
Excuse me, are they 4 alongside?
4 side by side. Yeah, that's the best. It wasn't able to work in a square, basically.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd be serving on top of people playing in the court behind you. So, just quickly, I mean, these are just sort of a lot of our goals that we have as we head into 2019. We don't just go into each year blindly. We try to strategically plan. I sit down with staff. We talk about things we think we can achieve, things we want to achieve. So this is just a summary of some of those areas. Obviously, a lot of it has to do with, you know, maintaining programming, but also trying new things. You know, we already serve multiple populations within the community. The key is to keep doing the things that we're doing, do them successfully. Again, quality control is something that's really important to us. That's a key and critical. Radnor Day Camp numbers, I know we want to focus on for 19. Our numbers did drop down a little bit, so we want to try and get those back to the numbers in 17, which were more in like the 230 range. This year's numbers this summer were about 190, so not real sure what the drop there had been. We have some ideas, but so that's one area we're going to focus a lot on in terms of marketing and trying to interface with the community to try to get that get registrations up. Online registration, we had unveiled a new online registration system. This is something we had been as a department behind in for a lot of years. Online registration systems are something that, you know, 15, 20 years ago were happening, and we never quite adapted a solid system. With the Township developing a new financial system enterprise-wide for all the departments. The company that we ended up going with had an online system for registration for recreation, so we endeavored it, but what we found is it really doesn't meet our needs. So we actually spent a large part of the last year doing feasibility, doing implementation, lots of meetings on training, and what we found is that unfortunately it's really not user-friendly. So we're going to actually be redoing this process again in the new year. So it's a little frustrating. So we'll be looking at some of the systems that are common in our field that some of our neighbors use, some folks regionally, you know, use that are successful, and hopefully, you know, we end up achieving something that works well for us, and most importantly works well for our users. Because right now folks are really struggling with the system that we have. Increasing health and wellness awareness initiatives. You know, there's a lot of epidemics nationwide. in terms of children and obesity and health problems. So I know that we want to continue to get behind things that provide education and provide opportunities to combat those kinds of issues that are happening. So switching gears real quick on events. Events over the last 10 years has become the backbone of what we do. You know, years ago, programming had been the backbone, event delivery, community events. We have 18 or so. You know, they change up a little bit each year that we deliver. They appeal to a wide variety of populations. I like to think that we have something for everyone. You know, we have kind of more niche events like the mother-daughter tea party or daddy-daughter, smaller events for smaller populations. Then we have our larger events like the Fall Harvest, Wheels of Wayne. Those have all been successful and have continued. A lot of them have been around now for like 6-7 years on a lot of our events, which is pretty amazing. So they've really turned into great traditions, and we're going to keep those going. We've been fortunate to work with some really great partners. You know, Villanova has been a great partner to us with the Spring Extravaganza, the Radnor Hotel with the Daddy-Daughter, the Saturday Club with the Mother-Daughter event. So we've been fortunate and also just eager and wanting to engage different businesses and different community organizations. So we can't do it alone. Sponsorships obviously help make them happen.
What's your favorite
funding.
event, Tammy?
My favorite event is actually Night at the Ballpark, the wiffle ball event. Baseball is one of my passions, so that one is my favorite. I've thought about it. There is a favorite and there is a least favorite. We don't have to get into the least favorite, but there is a ranking.
Tammy, when we do the Villanova event, do you get the students to volunteer for that?
They do. As a matter of fact, a large part of our community events, we have volunteers from a lot of different areas. Villanova has been great in providing students the Radnor Run. We depend on them. Daddy-Daughter, they have come out and they've been part of that event, and definitely Spring Extravaganza. That's one of the things we'll see when we look at some of the goals for events we want to try to continue to boost. I think one of our biggest goals has really been to work with Radnor School District students. We just haven't been able to crack that code yet. So I know we'd like to get a signature event together with the district, something we can bring students in on. Santa's Delivery, I know, is one we've kind of solicited and hoping that we can build that in the future.
Is the problem that you're not getting enough volunteers, or that you can't?
There just doesn't seem to be interest, maybe.
Don't these kids want to get into college?
Well,
I don't know, like we've reached out to the school counselors, we've talked with the principals, more specifically the high school. We just haven't been able to really get any traction.
I can tell you that National Honor Society alone, those kids, a lot of them are very eager to rack up their required
We'll have to
volunteers.
brainstorm on that one.
Yeah.
That
I've
should
talked
be a
with Michael
no-brainer. We should be able to
Pativi
figure
about
that
it
out.
too. He and I have met a couple of times. He's the communications, outreach communications person for the district. I know he and I have met, and I'm asked him if he's got any secrets on how we can kind of get students involved or get them, or get a club to sort of take on an
We could
event
work on
that
that.
they're a part of.
I
We
think-
just need to connect.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I mean, those kids are, they're amazing. The amount of volunteer activities they're in. And it runs the gamut of the activities, runs the gamut of the type of kids, and there's a well that can be tapped there.
So
for
maybe
sure.
it's just
Oh,
getting
that should
from
be great.
administration to the students. That might be the gap, and just sort of like getting
Two
through
worlds
that.
two worlds colliding, okay? So, like we talked about, just a simple thing as putting a comfort station in. So, I think with maybe a little bit of persuasion from Parks Board representatives, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. So, both of us hear a need here, so now our role is to go back to the school and say, this is something that we think is important, this is something that you think is important.
Definitely.
And this is something that we're working on as goals, or maybe not goals, but you're working on doing this, so we'll provide some guidance, don't you think, to?
Definitely, and it would be helpful if you have anything in mind,
Yeah.
like specific. So, for example,
Mhm.
this date, this activity.
Oh,
this is
sure.
this
Yeah,
school,
we
more
have bottles of
specific about
emails
it.
that we can provide you that
exactly.
we've
Who's in charge of the
given
National Honor
to
Society?
Janae Peterson.
So we've had support through the Champions program. I will say that we've gotten a lot of students through that. I think some of that has come with some of the coaches, the basketball coaches I know in specific. I know Howard in specific, I think, you know, with the, he's actually not here tonight, I think, because they were
They're in
going to
Florida.
Orlando.
They're Florida, not Florida.
So he's been a great advocate for us, as has been some others for the programming. But events, you know, we'd like to get some involvement there.
Can I make a suggestion? This wouldn't impact the Radnor kids, but my daughter goes to Sacred Heart, and they have a required, every student has a required number of service hours they have to do, as do most of the other private schools in mainland. So she actually started this organization that goes out and identifies volunteer opportunities, pulls them together into like a website, and then there's a membership across all of those schools that have required service hours, and then students can go into this database of opportunities and volunteer to do these projects. So if you have something, I can give it to her. She can put it on this site, and it'll hit all the private schools in the mainland.
Yeah, we do. We actually have a whole guide. It's all the opportunities and working together with us.
So yeah, so maybe just like hone in on one or two that make a lot of sense. Like maybe it's the Champions or something that kind of gets a hook, you know. But if you just hit them with like 10,000 things, they'll think, I'm not going through this, right? But yeah, so that maybe we can talk about that.
We definitely can,
Do
because it's certainly one of the things we want to build on.
That's great.
The theater kids have much to do in the summer, only because I'm thinking the one was building that brand new theater, and if we can coordinate something with them, start a theater program, and Upper Darby's theater program in the summer is
Yeah, we actually take the day camp kids there.
We had a theater program going through the school, and for different reasons, the summer program, it didn't work out. But haven't you been successful in terms of programming with bringing in outside groups for summer theater?
We work with Theater Horizon,
Right.
But honestly, I mean, it's a program that hasn't been one of our top performing, no pun intended, programs. It's kind of gone, you know, down over the years if you were to look at the numbers. But we would be much more open to doing something with our
That would be
folks.
that would be a great partnering piece that you're talking about. I mean, there are models out there that are Darby piece. You know, we have facilities, we have theater classes, we have the kids that are interested.
I'd say especially at
Parents
the
will support
younger ages, sort of to get them in,
Yeah.
because the older kids are going to Upper Darby because it's such good quality until.
Yeah, we take our camp there to see their shows,
Right.
so they are impressive.
Well, they'll be coming to see ours soon.
What helps that Father Peter is the president of the university, right?
That's how I got to be president.
Huh?
He's a great actor. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's something that we can definitely work on.
So that's definitely one of our
Yeah,
goals
okay.
that we're striving for. You know, we also, like I said, you know, sponsorships are huge to what we do. It's not just money; it's in-kind items. You know, anything from chips to gift cards to time. Folks come and contribute, so there's a large piece there that helps make those events be successful. This is the list. It might not be in totality of approximately the partners that we work with in some way through programs, events, things that our department delivers. So looking back into 18, obviously one of the big events, which is it's a one-time thing, but it was pretty huge, pretty epic, was the Emlyn Tennell celebration. We had some NFL greats come and be part of that day with us. We had a lot of local greats come and be part of that day with us. It was supposed to be a rainy day, I believe, and it ended up being incredibly warm, but it happened. Happened without tents, and it was a huge success. Fall Harvest event obviously continues to be one of the biggest, actually the biggest. I know we talked about some things we can, maybe look to change, making the resident experience with regards, of course, to the large pumpkins, a little bit of a better experience moving forward. We have some ideas about that for 2019. The extravaganza continues to be a great one. Wheels of Wayne, probably another one of my favorites. Has been something, probably never been thought of here in Radnor Township, and now is an event that folks love. And tying in Your favorite
Oh,
event?
yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and a lot of it is just the vast array of cars that we get. There's foreigns, there's domestics. You know, one year we had Mercedes CLK, I believe, that was designed by Porsche. It was valued at over $1 million, someone had brought up. So it's really, sometimes, you know, you're not sure what's going to happen each year, so that's part of what makes it exciting. And then involving the businesses with the food contests is a great time. Everybody looks forward to a good day there. The daddy-daughter dance, can't say enough of great things about that one. Tradition that everyone looks forward to. Our registration is going to open in, I think it's on January 7th.
It'll be
I
filled
know.
on January 7th.
What's that?
It'll be filled on January 7th.
We sold out in 2 hours last year. So
Is there any thought to adding a second one?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
yes, we've thought about it.
And quickly dismissed
We've
it.
quickly thought about it, and then we're like, well, that might be tough.
I was somewhere where there was a group of moms talking about that. Why isn't there a second one?
We
Or
frustration of having to
Or is there a way of giving people that weren't there last year, first
Yeah.
opportunity to sign up for the
Or
next
at the-
year, something like
You
that?
know, at the least maybe make it random, like everybody who
Like
wants
a
to go put
lottery,
their name in the
yeah.
hat, like a lottery or something.
We can
Because
evaluate
if the moms find out about it, then they'll start thinking about, okay, how do I get my name in there right the minute that it opens,
Right.
and then it becomes a
That opens on
Saturday club.
This is the Mother-Daughter Princess Tea Party. This was an event we started 2 years ago, and again, another event that sells out in a day.
Are they limited to Radnor residents?
They are. Both of those events are, as well as a new event that we have that's going to debut in January. Which we'll get to that in a second. But they're just great. They're very unique, very special, and providing those opportunities for families to have time and get away from the hustle and bustle. So many folks I know thank us just for providing the experience for them. Santa's delivery. So I have a little highlight in there of our very own Chuck Madden. He rocked it. I was
Exclamation point.
we were on the same zone, and Chuck was just amazing and part of an amazing event. So as you can see, we have 5 engines that support us that night. I think a lot of folks still think maybe just one engine goes out, one motorcade, but it's really 5.
5 motorcades?
5 motorcades,
Yeah.
so I'm going to go back to that slide. So when you take a look at the zones and the way they're broken down, you can see how we allocate ourselves and plot ourselves.
Broomall, rather, that was a big zone.
It was very spread out,
Yeah.
very not condensed. So if we take a look at the
I
numbers.
saw the conference room the week before,
Yes.
filled with the presents and separated by zone, and nobody sticks to the shoebox size present. You get a
No.
hockey stick, you get
A hockey stick,
this and
baseball
all,
bats.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So they do a great job accommodating all that.
So you can just see the growth in the program. It's obviously significantly well received.
Yeah.
I know one of my goals for next year with this event, which you'll see on a later slide, is for every household that gives a gift or registers a gift for their children, we want them to provide a gift for Toys for Tots. So our goal.
Great idea.
So for instance, like this year, we did receive 356 Toys for Tots gifts, but they all didn't come from the Santa's delivery registrants. So that's going to be like our goal and a campaign that we're going to try to roll out next year when folks register for the program to make part of it. And
How do you decide who gets gifts? Do you
they register for them for their own
Oh, they
children.
do? Okay.
So a lot of folks like tie in a party that night. We had some households that had 30, 40 gifts. There's some big parties happening out there in the township. I think some of our Santas got invited to some afterwards.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Couple of
I think we're
singing on the way home,
Every time I hear a
So it's
siren,
nice to
so
see whole
Township
a mix of a
on the
neighborhood.
hill,
And all the kids from the neighborhood would come and their parents would be there.
And it was a colder night too, so
It was
on
cold.
some of the warmer
It
nights
was
that
cold.
we've had,
Yeah.
folks are, they're
cold.
frolicking in the street, having a good time, so. The weather definitely was a little bit of a
Here's where
little bit of a cold one. So our goals, as I mentioned, that we, headed into the new year, we have some goals. We actually have a new event that we're going to debut in January. This is one we've talked about for a while. It's probably one that's near and dear to my heart because I have a son. This event actually sold out already. I mean, it had 0 advertising, and it sold out within a week. of being out there, just as a little bit of a teaser out on the website. I think there was a flyer in our fall brochure, starting to talk it up. But this is something that we're going to do at Radnor Activity Center, and we're going to have the moms and the sons go through a series of different circuits to train to become a superhero. So we're going to have a Nerf battle zone. We're going to have an obstacle course area. We'll have an arts and crafts area, pictures, things like
You're probably
that.
not going to get anybody out to do that. Can I sign up for that?
I have like 4 cases of Nerf, I don't want to call it guns, Nerf blasters.
Projectors.
Downstairs in our office area too for this event. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So we're going to put them through sort of a circuit type of training, and then they'll have an award ceremony and everything towards the end. So this will be the guinea pig year, but.
Do you have an age limit on that?
It was 5. It was 5
kids.
Oh,
Yeah, so someone is over.
I'm
make an
somebody's
exception.
son.
That's right.
That's right. It's 5 to 12. So the majority of the registers were really in the 5 to 9 range
sure.
to where it was.
What kind of numbers, Tammy?
We're doing, we're going to cap it at 60
Is that
this year.
60 total or?
That's 60 total.
30 and 30, 30 children and mom.
60 total.
Okay.
Just to make it manageable
Yeah,
the
right.
first year we're at the rack,
Good.
make sure we understand, give or take. So that one we're excited about, obviously coming up here in January. I know we're actually going to meet on that tomorrow and just kind of get on the same page on where we are planning wise as we turn into the new year. So a couple of other goals that we have is, one of the things that we have at all the events, a lot of the bigger events, is lots of water bottles. Plastic water bottles that get wasted. People open them, they set them down on tables. Anybody who's had a party, if you've ever had water bottles, they're just everywhere and they're not utilized. So we're going to try and come up with some creative ideas to sort of work through that, maybe with water stations, paper cups, things like that, just to try and stop the water bottle plastic craziness that exists out there, and some other things just to sort of help the environment. Obviously expanding registration or expanding partnerships and things like that is always something that we're looking to do, even if it's just folks attending some of our larger community events as businesses or community organizations. And then as I mentioned before, trying to get more students involved, perhaps beyond the college student population. So if you just take a look at a snapshot here of what our programming, registration, and event attendance has looked like over the years. Last several years we've hovered around 20,000 a year, so that's something we're going to want to continue to maintain. Obviously it goes up or down based on lots of different variables. Usually with the events it's the weather that can be the big variable. Facilities coordination continues to be a big key to what we do. Really happens in every month out of the year. Right now we're gearing up for spring, believe it or not. The requests are coming in. The applications, the certificate of liability insurance, that's all stuff that we coordinate for the community sports organizations, plus a lot of the private rentals and requests that we get across all of the fields. Radnor Memorial is really used almost 12 months out of the year too, so that's definitely one where there's been significant growth that still continues. The picnic areas, the pavilion rentals, Clemacrone Park, continues to grow. We opened that facility in 2017. 2018, I know we ended up with a significant amount of rentals there. I think I had the total in my report. It was like 25 rentals that we had at that facility. So that's a big part of what we do and makes up a big part of our day. Some of the miscellaneous things that we work on that aren't really directly related to kind of everything else I talked about. The AED units in our facilities was a project that we oversaw. We're in the process of implementing it right now with regards to AED units in this building on each floor, the Public Works garage, in the mechanics bay, in the administration area, and then of course getting one back over to Radnor Activity Center. There was a health and wellness grant that we had through the Township's healthcare administrator that helped folks get Vera desks, the standing desks. I know Jennifer has one over here. A lot of the other employees took advantage of having an opportunity to have one of those desks. You can see Heather there on the left standing at hers. So it allows you to be a little bit more active. You can bring them up when you want to stand, bring them down when you want to sit against what's the Vera chair that kind of came with some of the desks. We also were able to get a Peloton for our fitness room, which is right over here on this upper floor. So a lot of different projects. We also were able this year to get our recreation assistant position, which is a part-time position, at the gracious leadership of the board, approved to a full-time position. So that's been huge. So that picture of 3 of us now is going to 4, which is awesome. We need all the help we can get. So a lot of things that we have going on that we're working with. I had mentioned the awards. We still like to brag and boast about 2 awards that we had received, 1 in 13 and 1 in 14, only because we can't win them again. So once we've won them once, we can't go back and win them again. I feel confident if we did reapply, if we hadn't received it prior, we'd win it. So we talk about that. We talk about being a Tree City USA for 26 years. There's an application process behind that. Obviously, the township has a lot of care and concern with regards to trees. Clemacrone Park had 2 great awards, DCNR Green Park Award that we had won this year, and then also the Delaware County William H. Bates Award, which is actually sitting right over there on the bureau there to the right of the green one. That was the little plaque that was given to us.
It's a great picture.
It's a great picture.
That is
Another drone shot.
thanks to Radnor Studio 21 and their drone.
Yeah.
Amazing picture. So with parks and facilities, we have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of unchecked boxes there. I think there's a lot that we could include. We've been down that road and have talked about pretty much all those. We have some accomplishments behind us, namely, of course, Radnor Activity Center, and some of the work down there. And then in case you forgot what the facility used to look like, on the left there with the black base lines and end lines in the upper right, and then of course down in the lower right was what it looked like when we took it over in terms of the lease arrangement with the school district. So I mean, I love being part of Radnor. I think one of the unique things here is there is something for everyone. It sounds cliche, but it doesn't matter how old you are or what you're interested in. Facilities, programs, even if it's things we don't directly offer, groups that we work with. There's a wealth of organizations. We have the art center, we have the library. There's just so many great things, and it's something that I enjoy being part of, and I appreciate it. Definitely don't take for granted. So just on behalf of our department, this was the whole grow your beard for November. We participated, obviously. Just want to say thank you to all of you guys for a great year. Looking forward to next year, and obviously getting lots of things accomplished in the new year, especially park projects. So on behalf of the whole department, I just want to say thank you, and also thank them because they really work hard. The woman to the far left is Lizette. She's our recreation assistant who's been working for us part-time. She's in the process of moving into the full-time role, so we've gone through a process on that. And then Heather DeCanzio, just next to her, is our program supervisor. Tracy, there with the funny look on her face, Tracy Kroom now. She just recently got married. She's no longer Tracy Hardos. She's our program coordinator. And then there's me there on the right.
Is that your son?
No, he's a little bigger than that. He was on our route too the night of Santa's delivery.
He did a very good
Handing
job
out
too.
candy
He's handing out the
canes.
candy canes, yeah. All involved, yeah.
One of my great frustrations, and it was in spades Monday night when we passed the budget. At least one commissioner and 1 or 2 members of public got up and spoke strongly that we shouldn't be funding Parks and Rec. Don't see the value of it. Why are we doing it? We should just be doing trash, police, fire, that's it. And the answer they were given is the correct one. Right after the schools, the next most important thing for people making a decision to live in Radnor is Parks and Rec.
Absolutely. It's also
Good stuff,
very
right,
yeah.
Tammy?
Oh,
Really
thank
good.
you. I
Great.
appreciate
Yes,
it.
make that person look at this video, at this presentation.
Yeah, it'll go up on the website.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together.
Oh, absolutely.
together.
Like I said, we get a lot of great pictures, so there are things we definitely want to
And again, a
show
reminder
off
to
and
all of us,
encapsulate.
whenever you can get to events, please do so, and support everything that Ann and her staff is doing out there. Jim, you get the superhero event.
He can be our villain.
You can participate if you want, you can stand aside.
Dressed up as Superman.
Let's do a second event where there's no age limits. My mom and I would kick the butt.
And then you wouldn't get the AED there.
Exactly. Actually, just on that AED thing real quick, this is this is a lighthearted meeting, but my father died, and they brought him back to life with one of those things within 2 minutes, and he lived healthily
Wow.
long after that. And it was because he was playing tennis at an indoor tennis facility that was owned by a doctor who had installed one of those and trained the staff on how to use it. And within 2 minutes, it was a massive coronary. He hit the deck. Within 2 minutes, these 22-year-old guys, not doctors, not nurses, tennis players, used this on him. They took him to the hospital, put him into a coma for 3 days, and when he woke up, he said, "What am I doing here?"
Wow.
About that.
And he's in Reading, lives in Reading. It was all done at the Reading Hospital. The Reading Hospital literally put him up on a billboard and said, this is what can happen if you have AED. So I'm a big supporter of that idea. It's
Yeah.
until you have firsthand experience with it, you just think, oh, it's just another program that somebody's pushing, but it can save lives. I know for a fact.
Well, the great thing about this program is we're working with a company called Tri-State Consulting. And so one of the challenges there is with AEDs is maintaining them. So this company is actually going to maintain them for us as well. So they will be keeping a log of them, knowing when to check in on them. And then also there's like a replacement schedule of everything that they oversee, they maintain, they make sure they're functional, they look at them. And ultimately we'd like to expand it to the active parks and the busier parks too. That's really the goal. I know Lower Merion had implemented a program a year or two ago, and it's something that I think we have in the capital budget, something we definitely want to look at funding over the next couple years.
I'd also like to congratulate you on the amount of the sponsorships and the donations that you get for the special events. I mean, I go to the ones, and I was blown away the first time with the food that was there. I mean, we had Anthony's, we had a whole bunch of top flight restaurants in our area, and it was free food samples.
Well,
That was
from
great.
when I was on the Parks Board, the singular difference these days and why we can do all these programs is sponsorship.
Yes, yes.
And back in those days, the Parks Board tried to do sponsorships. Commissioners wouldn't permit it. We're Radnor,
It's
we
not
don't do
the
that.
singular difference. Right there.
No,
Right there
it
is
is.
the singular
But I'm
difference.
saying-
No, I hear what you're saying, John. I just
Yeah.
wanted to
I mean,
point
we
out
got
that
there because
none
of
this
Bob
would-
and
None of this
Tammy.
would be here
Right,
without
right.
what Tammy
Yeah.
has done for our township for the last
Yeah.
15 years.
A lot of people don't see what you do, Tammy, seriously. It just happens, okay? And I just want to make sure that, we know what a great job you do. So,
I appreciate that, I
and,
truly do.
Yeah.
I can't do it without my staff though,
No.
and honestly, the support that we get here with all the departments, every department is involved in some way.
Oh, yeah,
Police
yeah.
and public works
Even the
are
pub-
paramount.
Hey,
The public works guys.
There's a
are-
difference,
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
big difference in Radnor, is the people that work in Radnor for the township care about Radnor.
Yep.
Absolutely.
From the trash guys to the park and rec
Absolutely.
people to the township manager, all up and down, they care about Radnor and, put their heart and souls into it.
And
It's
it
a real
shows.
difference in our
It shows.
township.
Do the citizens generally, I mean, I was raised this way, but we take care of our trash people. I mean,
Yes.
hot days, I mean, I did that for one, I mean, it's just like,
Oh, yeah.
do not most, but many citizens go out and
Yep.
thank you and gifts.
I
and-
think so.
I mean, that means such the world to those guys.
Yeah.
I just.
Well, several years ago, when we had to be back 10, 11, 12, that vintage when the economy was still pretty rough, we looked at outsourcing trash. And I put that in my newsletter to my ward. And I must have gotten 100 calls and emails that basically said, raise my taxes first.
Those guys are great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
terrific. They really are, guys.
They really are.
Okay. One last item I want to mention is that, I was going to do it tonight, like we've gone long enough tonight, so at our January meeting, first item of business, we'll do an executive session at 6:15. So if everybody could try and make an effort to get here early, is to talk about reorganization of this board. Anybody wants to be consider being chair and or vice chair of this board, we can have a conversation and figure out what will work best for 19. So anybody has any questions, obviously feel free to reach out to Bill or myself to talk about that and talk what's involved in it. I encourage anybody, new members, older members, you know, it's a very open group. It's always been that way since I've been on this board for, Aaron, I guess, we've been on the board for,
Oh, you've been longer than I have.
yeah, 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it's been. But so it's rewarding, and you know, I think it's always good to have fresh ideas and fresh people and fresh minds, etc. So think about that. Please make an effort to try and get here 15 minutes early. We'll do an executive session, discuss that, figure that out, and then go on from there.
And I want to thank all of you for your service, volunteers. You don't get the big paycheck like we do.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays, everybody.
Yep.
Happy Christmas.
7 years. It'll be 7 years.
7